Hello, and welcome back to the Stories of Northern Life podcast, brought to you by the Sault Ste. Marie Museum. I'm your host, Nicole, and today we are going to be talking about Team Jacobs as they head into the 2026 Milan Olympics. And so Team Jacobs, I think we probably sort of know them from their 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics gold medal win. And so they won gold for Canada in Sochi in 2014. And so today in this episode, we're going to be looking at who Team Jacobs is and sort of the history of their family curling here in the Sault. So we'll start off with Brad. He was born on June 11th, 1985 in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. And his family was very prominent in the Northern Ontario curling scene. He grew up at the Sault Curlers Association, playing alongside his cousins EJ and Ryan Harnden. So from an early age, Jacobs was apparently immersed in competitive curling culture and was known locally as a dedicated rink rat, often spending long hours practicing fundamentals. By his early 20s, Jacob had already reached national prominence with multiple Brier appearances representing Northern Ontario. And so Northern Ontario typically didn't do very well, like against Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario. So his team really took the scene by storm right around the time of their first Brier win and going to the Sochi Olympics. And so he actually was able to win the 2013 Tim Hortons Brier, where he took Northern Ontario's first men's national title since 1985. So let's look at the Harnden family. So we have Eric Harnden, and he is the father of EJ and Ryan Harnden, and so he's also Brad's uncle. He has his own long curling career. So he's a multiple-time Northern Ontario champion. He represented the region several times at the Canadian Men's Curling Championships, like the Briers, during the late 80s and early 90s. Though his most memorable national appearance came at the 1990 Brier that was hosted here in Sault Ste. Marie at the Memorial Gardens. So he was competing on home ice, and Eric became a local symbol of elite curling achievement, a moment that deeply influenced his young sons. Then in 2007-2008, Eric returned to the Brier stage as skip of a family rink with sons EJ, who was second, and Ryan, who was lead. And that team won the Dominion Northern Ontario Men's Championship and represented the region at the 2008 Brier, marking one of the rare father-son lineups in modern Canadian curling. And so his role with Team Jacobs, Eric served as the alternate at the 2015 Brier and a trusted advisor and on-site support figure during the team's Olympic cycle. He was present for many milestone moments, including the breakthrough that they had at the 2013 Brier, which he was able to witness in person. And EJ described it as one of the most emotional of his career, being able to not only win the Brier, but to be surrounded by his family. So let's look at Eric's legacy and influence. So he instilled a belief-based mindset in his children, emphasizing confidence, discipline, and emotional control. He introduced EJ and Ryan to high performance standards well before fitness and strength training became sort of mainstream in curling. And his example made curling not just a sport, but a family identity embedded in daily life at the Sioux Curlers Association. And now let's look at his brother, Alan Harnden, who is the uncle of all three of them, Brad, EJ, and Ryan. So Alan is seen a little bit more as a builder, administrator, and community steward. They see his impact as more of that mentor and club leader who is able to help curling in the Sioux thrive. Alan has been a longtime member and volunteer at the Sioux Curlers Association, and Sioux Curlers is one of Northern Ontario's most productive curling clubs. He has served in club governance, including roles on the board of directors, usually always listed as Al Harnden. He helped guide operations, programming, and long-term sustainability. His work supported youth curling development, competitive league structure, and the maintenance of a high caliber training environment for elite athletes. And now Alan is widely regarded as a behind-the-scenes mentor within the extended Harnden-Jacobs family. He provided continuity between generations, ensuring that young curlers had access to ice time, competitive opportunities were nurtured locally, and the Sioux maintained its reputation as a serious curling town, not merely a recreational one. So while Alan Harnden did not achieve the same national competitive profile as Eric, his contribution lies in institution building, the often unseen work that makes elite sport possible. And so I always heard Alan's name a little bit more growing up. My parents were both curlers. Well, in fact, my father still curls, and it's always Al Harnden that you hear about and the work that he's done. And so there is still that big legacy, especially if you know the curlers here in the Sioux. So let's look at sort of the shared legacy of Eric and Alan Harnden. So together, Eric and Alan Harnden represent two essential pillars of sporting legacy. So Eric, you see him as an elite competitor. Al, you see him as a club builder and administrator. Eric Harnden, again, buyer skip, family mentor, and on-ice influence. Al as board leadership, community mentor, and off-ice infrastructure. So you can really see how the two sort of balanced each other out. Their combined efforts created the conditions that produced two Olympic gold medalists. And so that's EJ and Ryan Harnden, and one Olympic champion skip, Brad Jacobs, and hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed, Brad will have another Olympic championship in him. So I definitely stay tuned for that. This episode will be going out on February 12th, and that is when the men's curling is supposed to start for the 2026 Olympics. So make sure you are watching and keeping an eye on Team Jacobs this year for the Olympics. Now let's look at EJ. So he was born in 1983 in Sault Ste. Marie, and he's widely regarded as one of the greatest sweepers in the modern area, known for strength, endurance, and technical precision. And in fact, a little bit of a spoiler alert, so Team Jacobs did end up splitting apart, and so EJ went to curl with the other Brad Gushu of Newfoundland. And so he went out there and was curling with Gushu, and Gushu in one interview did say that he was just kind of not prepared for how strong of a sweeper EJ was. They had to sort of adjust because EJ was so powerful that the rocks would go so much further than they actually meant to. That just goes to show just how much of a powerhouse sweeper EJ is. And then we have Ryan Harnden, born in 1986 in Sault Ste. Marie. And he is known as an excellent lead with exceptional weight judgment and communication skills. And so they were actually nicknamed the Brush Brothers, and they were central to redefining physical conditioning in curling, emphasizing fitness and power sweeping long before it became standard across the sport. And this is sort of something you can see with Team Jacobs is, I think, because of the influence of their father and uncle or uncles, just how much they started to put physical training, like that importance also in curling competitions. And so you can see just how much they were focusing on it. And after they really started winning, so after that really big 2013 Brier win, you start to see other teams starting to focus on that as well. And so they kind of became influential in the curling world in that sense as well. The Hardens and along with Jacobs became sort of the backbone of Northern Ontario's curling resurgence in the late 2000s and early 2010s. So I think sort of maybe around that time, curling was, I think, getting a little bit stagnant and maybe becoming more of that recreational thing. So that was sort of in that time between when Brad won the 2013 Brier and when we had the Brier here and our team won. So you kind of have that little lull in curling, it seemed, or at least that's what we can kind of see, at least competitive wise. But let's get back into who Team Jacobs was. The core Olympic team, so with curling you have sort of a four-man team. There is a fifth, and so he's like the spare alternate, so he's there as well. But you have the skip, who's sort of, I guess, a captain. So that's Brad Jacobs. And then you have Ryan Fry as the third. And so the third means that you're going to be the third person to throw the rock. And he's kind of the, I guess, second in command sort of thing. And then you have EJ was the second. And so the second means you're going to throw second, and then Ryan Harnden was the lead, meaning that you are going to throw the lead rock. The first two rocks is you're going to throw. And so that's sort of the layout of the team. And when the team went to Sochi in 2014, they had Caleb Flaxey as the fifth. And so they kind of described the lineup as like Brad with his strategic aggression, Fry his shot-making versatility, and then the Harden's the unmatched sweeping power. Now that's sort of how they were describing the makeup. And so despite strong results, the team barely qualified for the 2013 Canadian Olympic curling trials. They advanced through the pre-trials as the final qualifying team. Once there, defeated John Morris in the final to earn Canada's Olympic gold. And so that was just such a big thing. I don't know if you were here in the Sioux during that time, but if you have any memories of that, feel free to share them. We would love to hear them, especially as we go forward for another Olympic win. So at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia, Team Jacobs represented Canada in men's curling. So here are the tournament highlights. In the round robin, they had a 7-2 record after an early 1-2 start. In the semifinals, defeated China 10-6, and then in the gold medal final, they defeated Great Britain. Their victory secured Canada's third consecutive Olympic gold medal in men's curling and completed a historic men's-women's curling gold sweep alongside Team Jennifer Jones. So Team Jacobs is widely praised for their physical conditioning. So as I was talking about how they sort of were bringing these new standards to curling, also emotional resilience after early losses, and an aggressive modern style that influenced how elite teams trained and strategized in subsequent years. Now let's look at them after Sochi. So they remained together for several seasons. So they had runner-up finishes at the Brier in 2015. They won bronze medals at the Brier in 2016 and 2019 and won multiple Grand Slam curling titles. In 2019-2020, Mark Kennedy replaced Ryan Fry as third, and this is said to have injected veteran championship experience into the lineup. That version of Team Jacobs won 3 consecutive Grand Slam events and finished runner-up at the 2021 Olympic trials, narrowly missing a return to the Olympics. And then so in 2022, the original Northern Ontario based Team Jacobs disbanded. So the Harden brothers went on to play for other teams. Like I was saying before, EJ went on to play with Brad Gushu, and Jacobs actually briefly stepped back from curling for about a year, and then he started to go into curling again. So let's look at the new Team Jacobs and the road to 2026. They reformed in Alberta 2023-2024. Jacobs assembled the new Alberta-based team. This team, I believe the reason why Brad went out to Alberta to play is because this team had already formed and they lost their skip, so then they asked Brad to skip for them. So that's why Brad went out to Alberta. And so you had Brad as a skip, Mark Kennedy, so the one who replaced Ryan Fry, he was third. I also forgot to mention that sometimes they are called the vice or vice skip. Then you had Brett Gallant as second, Ben Hebert as lead, and Tyler Tardy as alternate. And so this lineup combined sort of Brad's Olympic experience, but also multiple world and Olympic medals with Kennedy, Gallant, and Hebert. So they also had elite sweeping power across sort of all positions. Now, for the Olympic qualifications, 2025 Canadian curling trials in Halifax, Team Jacobs won the men's final, officially earning the right to represent Canada at Milano Cortina this year, 2026. Curling Canada formally announced Team Jacobs as Canada's men's Olympic team on December 1st, 2025. And so this is kind of where we're coming full circle from the Sioux to the Olympics and back again. As we move into this week and next, we are going to start seeing Brad competing in his second Olympic Games 12 years after his Sochi triumph. CBC and Curling Canada coverage are emphasizing the emotional symmetry of this journey. A Sault Ste. Marie curler returning to the Olympic stage after defeating, among others, teams featuring his own Harnden cousins at the trials. This story has a lot of sort of significance for Canada, hoping to get that gold medal, but also a really big significance for us locally, getting Sault Ste. Marie known to everyone, putting us on the world stage. And so I hope that leading into this next Olympic journey, you're going to be following Brad's games and cheering him on, especially as he gets into the finals. Fingers crossed, we will all be rooting him on here at home, and I'm sure all across Canada. And so this is sort of just about one curling team from the Sioux. We will be bringing you more curling history from the Sioux, hopefully later on this year, because curling in the Sioux has a really big legacy here, and one I don't think that we emphasize as much as we should, because we should be really proud of our curlers here in the Sioux. And so I hope you enjoyed the episode, and as always, thanks for listening. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, you might like our blog too. Head over to our website, Sioux Museum, that's SAULT museum.ca, and look under Discover. You will find our blog, Museum Musings. We share short synopsis of influential people, historic places, and impactful events in our history. Pictures are always included, and you will be sure to learn a little something new with each post.